There's always so much.
Good afternoon, this is Occupier Kaylin coming to you live from the Des Moines Waterworks building. In a few minutes we will await the Des Moines Waterworks board, who is voting on a lawsuit that initially could have been against the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, but I recently learned that it will actually be against 3 counties in Iowa that have the largest number of combined confined animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, factory farms. Over almost 600 in these 3 counties that have been named in this suit. So the board will meet and hear a public testimony for and against the suit idea, and then they will vote. And so I'm here to cover this meeting to capture all the testimony from everyone who has been signed up to testify. So now just waiting for the board to get in here and take their seats, and we can get this thing going. There's limited seating in here, so I have chosen to stand. Plus, it'll be much easier for me to live stream, and I can see the individual board members, and I can actually see the face of every person will be coming up to the podium. There is no microphone. This is a small room. So I don't think there'll be an issue with not being able to hear. But if someone's voice is soft, I can extend my monopod and have it closer to the person who's speaking, so to pick up their voice better. And for those just tuned in, this is Occupier Kaylin. We are at the Des Moines Waterworks headquarters in their board meeting room, where the Waterworks Board will discuss and take testimony on a proposed lawsuit against 3 Iowa counties that are causing an excessive level of nitrates to flow down into the 2 rivers that feed the Des Moines area, and where the Waterworks draws its water from, the Des Moines and Raccoon rivers. The Waterworks plant has had to turn on its nitrate removal system for the second time last year, and then, so it's ongoing, and it's an expensive process. And I found out earlier that we have the largest nitrate removal system in the country. So we are just waiting for the board members to show up so we can get this meeting started. After the testimony is heard and the board discusses, and they may meet in a private session. And if I have to shut down the stream for a while to go outside, if they do want to meet privately and then come back into open meeting status for their vote, that's what I'll do. Because of the limited seating capacity, I am choosing to stand and do my stream this way. A few seats up front, although I think that one's taken. Sorry about that.
Fine, thank you. How are you?
gorgeous. Well, probably not so many people come here at a time. This probably doesn't draw too many visitors.
Yeah, your board meetings aren't that exciting normally.
Yeah, like I said earlier, the only other one that I went to was at the Botanical Center when they were talking about the fluoridation. But they ended up going through with the fluoridation anyway.
No. Not so far. It was a good change.
We should have told people to park at Jasper Winery when they have their wine things. They'll come here to park. Yes, where is that? Is that around that corner across the road? So my new coat is feathers all over me.
Yeah, I put a liner inside my down coat, and that's how I keep the feathers at bay. Plus, it's an extra layer against the cold. See if you can see this. I saved this from an old coat. I ditched the shell, but the liner's in perfect condition, so I just put it inside there. And that, and that's how I
Repurposing.
yeah, I give it extra life because it's it's keeping the feathers off my clothes, plus it keeps me extra warm. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're all right.
People are getting up and moving, talking to someone else, so just changing my position. We have another camera being set up over there. There will be testimony taken in regards to a lawsuit proposal that the board has made an intention of to file against 3 Iowa counties because of the high nitrate levels that are coming from these counties into waterways that end up feeding into the Des Moines and Raccoon rivers, and that is causing the nitrate level to get jacked up really high, forcing the Des Moines Water Works to employ its nitrate removal system. It did that early last year, and then it had to do it again more recently because the nitrates have been jacked up from all the factory farm runoff and other agricultural pollution, and it's contaminating our water, and boiling does not remove nitrates. In fact, it concentrates it. Boiling water only kills pathogens that are living organisms like bacteria or virus, but nitrate is a chemical. It's an inorganic compound. It's not a living entity, so you have to filter it out, and that takes extra filters that the normal treatment process does not do. And I think it's like 10 parts per million or 10 parts per billion. I'm not sure, but it's the number 10 is regarded as a safe nitrate level, but that's too high. Germany, for example, 4.5 is regarded as a safe nitrate level for water safety. And so it would be nice if we could do what Germany has done and lower that threshold. So, because nitrates, excessive high nitrates, can cause what's called blue baby syndrome, where a baby who either drinks the water directly from a contaminated source or gets it from breast milk when nursing from mom, it causes that lack of oxygen, so that the baby does not get all the oxygen he or she needs to survive, and thus turning blue. And nitrate is a big cause of that. So that's what this thing is going to be about. So we have a full house. Some people have to stand, like I'm doing.
That's right.
I think there still may be more people coming in. So I will not be talking a whole lot once this thing gets started.
No, I've got it.
And we have another cameraman showing up. They're setting up over there because it's easiest for them to get back there, and that's in the open corner, so they'll be occupying that spot. But I will be more mobile than they are. The group that is opposed to this proposed lawsuit is the Iowa Farm Bureau, which is ag lobby here, which really doesn't represent individual factory farmers. They actually represent the corporate the corporate entities that have the factory farms for both animal and crop corporate farming. So that's what the Farm Bureau represents. So they're not representatives of the individual family farms that are trying to do things the right way.
I don't think I am. I saw that yesterday, and that last week in January is a long year for me. I'm traveling for those days. Yeah.
You're in that triangle.
I'm going to get my battery pack because I have like half juice and I don't know how long this meeting is going to last. Oops. I am plugged into my power pack, so that should keep me going for a little while.
Hello.
Some of the board members have already come in and take their seats. Got someone back there who is going to be sitting at a computer in that corner opposite from the cameraman. There's a guy down here sitting on the floor who will be.
There's a seat right down here.
Laptop.
Need somebody who wants to sit down. Right back here against the back wall, there's a seat. Somebody there that can't see wants to come in and sit. Right back there.
They probably should have found a bigger room if they anticipated. They should have anticipated this big turnout. One of the camera guys is taping a mic to the podium so that their cameras can clearly record the speakers. A few more people are going to squeeze in here. So now all the seats have been taken, so people coming in will have to pull up a wall. Yeah, they should have anticipated a big turnout. They should have found a bigger space. Sorry, Phil. My coat's down there.
I won't step on it. He's all the way at the back there. He's all the way.
For those just tuning in, this is Occupier Kaylin coming to you live from the Des Moines Waterworks Board meeting, where they'll be taking testimony and discussing a proposed lawsuit against 3 Iowa counties that have been the source of the most serious nitrate and other factory farm, corporate farm runoff in the state. And the source is also what feeds the Des Moines and Raccoon Rivers, where the Des Moines Waterworks draws water from for the city and the suburbs that use the waterworks for their source. It's just my coat down there. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of coats.
Oh, they're definitely necessary today.
Yeah. Yep, layer it up, that's how you stay warm. You've got a few people standing out here who'll be trying to listen in.
Check the bags in the channel. Checking 2 bags to Minneapolis.
Still got a few more people over there at the door
You told me.
that I came in.
Yeah.
Seems to be a good signal in here. I don't have access to Wi-Fi, so I'm burning data. But I seem to have a good signal in here.
Well, I guess. Technically, yeah.
God didn't like my mother, so he stuck us in Iowa. I'm not going anywhere.
I was born in Nebraska, but I spent most of my life in Iowa. I went to Arkansas after high school for 3.5 years, but I missed Iowa, so I came back.
I only complain in January. It's the only month. Well, February. I know. January and February are probably the worst. I never complain. By March, you know it's kind of on the downhill side.
Yeah.
While we wait for this meeting to get started, I want to give a shout out to any Restream channels that may be picking up my feed and rebroadcasting it. Now, this meeting might sound kind of boring, but then again, who knows what is going to come up from those who will testify and how the board members themselves will discuss. So this is a way of documenting it. The camera guys over there, I don't know how much of it they'll capture or how it will come out in the finished reports for the channels that they're shooting the video for. But I will get it all, or as much as I can, and it will be raw. It will not be edited in any way. So this is how we streamers roll. We just shoot it and leave it as is. Yeah, I get the conservation voters newsletters in my email. Yeah. I'm a live streamer.
Oh, nice. Shoot, next time I might just
Well,
try to find the link for that.
yeah, it's on my it's on Ustream, and sometimes I put these videos up on YouTube. And then other Restream channels will pick up my feed and other streamers' feeds and rebroadcast them, so that widens the audience even more. So that anyone around the world can see this. Yeah, I live stream protests and other meetings and public talks and things like that. Yeah, all over the city, and I do it by bus or I bum rides. We may also have Des Moines Register people here. There's a guy who just sat down in front of me who will be taking notes. We may have radio stations here. But unlike them, I will not edit. It just stays raw.
What's the website?
It's USTREAM dot TV slash channel slash yeah. And after that slash, it's the hyphen occupied hyphen tent. Yeah, the occupied tent. That's the name of my channel. Yeah, pack like whales in a sardine can. Yeah, you might want to shed a skin. There's going to be a lot of bite heat in here.
Yes, there is. Should really take my coat.
Yeah. Yeah, there's someone who'll be coming to go pack this. Go out, step out for a minute. Looks like all of the board members are here. And I think we'll get this thing started pretty soon. People are sitting on the floor in front of me, so I won't be able to move around as much as I would like. So I'm just going to stay in this one spot.
Special meeting. It's a special meeting of the Board of Waterworks Trustees, January 8th at 3:30 in the afternoon. Just kind of as an order of business, the way this meeting will be conducted, like many closed sessions, we will have an open session. This first open session, we won't conduct any business, but this will be the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on this topic or any other, but I'm sure most of you are here on this topic, which I'll explain in a minute. After we're done with the public comment period, the board will then go into a closed session, and the purpose of that session is to discuss pending litigation as is appropriate under Iowa law. We will discuss that. It's hard for me to estimate how long that discussion will last. If I guess, I'll be wrong. It should be relatively short. My hope is it's a half an hour or 45 minutes, but who knows what will happen in that meeting. The plan then is to come out of that closed session into an open session where the board is likely to take an action about this filing our intent to sue. We would do that after we come out of closed session. Again, there won't be a public comment period at that period. It's just a matter of us coming out and taking that vote. So it's obviously up to everyone whether they want to stick around for that piece of it or not. Should the board decide and take an affirmative vote to file the action to sue, that will probably happen tomorrow, and at which point that letter of intent to sue that will be distributed to the parties and others will be available tomorrow. I don't have anything, nor will we have anything available like that today. Is that correct, Liz? So I think everyone is well aware of why we're here today. It's been in the media and others, but what we are contemplating as the Board of Trustees of Des Moines Waterworks is filing an intent to sue. There are 3 counties involved in this potential action. Those counties have drainage districts, which are set up in the state of Iowa, somewhat unique to the state of Iowa. They're the 3 counties involved: Sac County, Buena Vista County, and Calhoun County. I'm not an attorney. In layman's terms, what we're seeking is that any entity, a government entity such as the drainage district in this case, should seek a permit, just like we do at Des Moines Waterworks and other entities, wastewater entities and others do, who deposit things into our waterways in Iowa. With that permitting process, hopefully then some regulations are put into place so that we can get a better handle on and cleaning our waters. That is all we are seeking. Is a permit, is that all entities in Iowa be treated the same. I'll let Bill Stowe discuss this, but I think most of you are aware, and if not, we'll let you know today. We have seen unusually high concentrations of nitrates in our two rivers, the Raccoon River and the Des Moines River, in this winter. We are running our denitrification units and have been for the last 30-plus days, which is unheard of this time of year. And I'll let Bill talk to the scientific piece of that. But what I want everybody to, and remind everybody is, even though that is a dire situation and one of great concern to us, that alone is not why we sit here today. We are considering this action because the nitrate levels in our rivers have continued to go up over time, and over a long period of time, a decade. It's not that we're running those facilities right now that causes the suit. That's only part of the real part is that those levels go up over time. So we feel, as a board, and the reason that we've asked our attorneys and the staff to get us to this point is that we feel we have a responsibility to our customers and others to seek solutions. And should the board take the action today, that's why we're here discussing it. That's why we've gotten to this point. Do you want to talk a little bit about the levels and where we are, just to give people the...
I'd be happy to. And, all our remarks are intended to give you some background, obviously, should you choose to address the Board of Trustees. There are a couple things that Graham's touched on that I want to hit on again. Most importantly, the water that we're delivering is safe today. We're meeting and exceeding the federal government's requirements for safe drinking water. But there is significant risk that the nitrate concentrations that we see now, that we saw in the summer of 2013, risk potential violation based on demand and based on concentrations. We are right now operating our denitrification units and have since December 4th. As Graham mentioned, that is extraordinary for us. We expect, regrettably, a nitrate surge in the middle of the year, not at the end of the year. A winter nitrate surge like this is something we have not experienced before, and it raises great concerns about what the future holds. In the summer of 2013, we saw the highest nitrate levels that we have seen on both the Des Moines and Raccoon rivers. Those are times of high demand for us and raises special concerns for us because the units that we use to denitrify were built now over 20 years ago and have limits. The technology is limited, and realistically our market has changed. The metro area has grown, so we have a need for more rather than less water. At the end of the day, we're talking about risk, not the economics of 5,000 or 7,000, and there's some variation of what it costs us every day to run those units. The real risk is that although we have one of the largest denitrification facilities in the country, it isn't big enough. And it's increasingly reaching a point where it has to be replaced with a better technology. And we're talking about $100 million plus in terms of replacing it with current technologies. So a huge economic consequence and capital costs going forward. But when it comes right down to it, we're concerned about being off the charts in terms of our own ability to mitigate the risk. We've not seen these kind of numbers before. We have great concerns about what the future lies in terms of nitrate concentrations and other pollutant levels on both the Des Moines and Raccoon River. And I'm confident there are going to be some folks who speak today that want to dispute our numbers or want to dispute whether it's the worst or whether it's weather-related. At the end of the day, we have to provide safe drinking water on a day-to-day basis. And we're very concerned about our ability to do that. What the board will talk about in closed session is a recommendation from me as the general manager of this utility to issue a notice of intent to sue, as Graham mentioned, to the boards of supervisors from 3 counties in northern Iowa at locations, involving locations where we have, for the year of 2014, been up on a weekly basis and believe that we can demonstrate that they are significant point source polluters to the Raccoon River that we draw from for drinking water. We're very concerned about a voluntary strategy that continues to say agricultural producers are unregulated, but cities, small communities, industrial producers are highly regulated. When the nutrient reduction strategy indicates that 90% of the problem from nitrogen is from agricultural sources. The particular polluters that we have identified are all agriculture. This isn't a wastewater treatment plant. This is not a golf course. These aren't suburban lawns or urban lawns where people use fertilizer. Many of the reasons and contributors that are put out there for nitrate concentrations just don't exist in the context of the folks that we have identified. The drainage districts under Iowa law are supervised by boards of county supervisors who are obviously elected. This board will be considering issuing a notice of intent to sue to county supervisors in the 3 counties that Graham's mentioned. It's a serious action, but one that we see little good alternative towards as a staff in talking with the board. Obviously, the board talks about litigation, including the pros and cons, in closed session, so they can reach the right decision on behalf of this utility and on behalf of our ratepayers and consumers. And as Graham mentioned, public comment on the front end of this. They will deliberate in closed session, come back, and those of you who choose to be here for that actual vote, that'll be done in open session. And we very much appreciate your participation today. What we're going to suggest is coming to the lectern. You'll see a sign-up sheet there. We don't want people signing up in advance, but if you'll give us your name and basic information, if we would have any additional questions or to fill out our record, we'd love for that to happen. This isn't a debate. The board is here to hear your comments. Neither the board nor staff, particularly me, are here to exchange in a dialogue with you our varying positions. But I'm confident that the board is here to be informed by your comments. We recognize that not everyone who walks out of here today will be satisfied with the outcome. It's a serious decision that the board's considering. We appreciate your participation. Thank you for coming.
Before I move to that, is there anything any board members would like to add? Okay. So what we will do, as I say, we'll go through this process. I feel that a public meeting like this is as Iowa as it gets. This is an opportunity for you to provide us with information. Because we are limited on time, as Bill suggested, I would encourage you not to try to engage in some sort of debate with us. We're not here to answer questions necessarily at this point, but that's a possibility. We can do that in a different format, at a different forum. I will try to, and I will ask you to limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes. I recognize that not everyone that's here today wants to speak, but some of you are here to show support for others, and I appreciate that as well. So, with that being said, who would like to be first up at the podium? Yes, ma'am. Please head over to the podium. Please state your name and maybe tell us where you're from.
I signed up first, actually. Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Bunka, and I'm a tax-paying resident of Ames, Iowa. My views are pronounced, but they are entirely my own. I'm a member of the Iowa Alliance, the Iowa Farmers Union, Iowa Rivers Revival, the Skunk River Paddlers, and on and on. But today I'm speaking as a member of the Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. I want to register my strong support for the legal action that the Des Moines Water Works is about to undertake if they vote to do that. The Water Works is standing up not only for the citizen ratepayers of Greater Des Moines area, but also for Iowans everywhere who have clearly expressed their concerns for the degraded state of our waterways. I read yesterday that the Iowa Farm Bureau's Environmental Policy Advisor, Rick Robinson, called this proposed lawsuit abrasive and un-Iowan. Well, let's ask ourselves, what is Iowa nice? our 630 impaired waterways, Iowa Nice, our record levels of nitrates in our drinking water, Iowa Nice, is forcing others to pay to clean up the mess you made, Iowa Nice, is voluntary compliance, Iowa Nice. Well, actually, that one is Iowa Nice. Unfortunately, it's a tactic that has failed repeatedly. We have a nutrient reduction strategy that I believe deliberately included no metrics by which its progress can be reliably measured. At the December 16, 2014 meeting of the Iowa Environmental Protection Commission, the EPC, I was surprised to hear that the Agribusiness Association of Iowa has inquired about receiving $2 million from the Ag Management account to monitor water quality with regards to the reduction strategy, a classic case of the foxes guarding the hen house. Governor Branstad, the EPC, the top brass of the DNR, the Farm Bureau, and the commodity groups have all worked diligently to maintain the status quo and avoid having, quote unquote, and this comes from Governor Branstad, burdensome rules, quote unquote, applied to corporate factory farm polluters. This, in spite of public outcry about polluted water in this state and nationwide condemnation for the role that we have played in creating and continuing to enlarge the Gulf of Mexico dead zone. Thank you, Des Moines Waterworks, and in particular, the CEO and General Manager Bill Stowe. Iowans need a clean water champion. If this lawsuit succeeds, you will have done more for Iowans than the rest of those greedy charlatans put together. I give you my support and I wish you success.
I think the OCD in me, I think what I'm going to do is, and you're following my lead. I think I'm going to kind of work this way if we can, and so we'll let this gentleman go next, and then you.
My name is David Hans, and I'm a member of the Isaac Walton League, which is just down the road here a little bit. And I'm one of the water testers that works with Linda Kinnaman. We go out every 6 months and actually test the water in the rivers and lakes here in Polk County in 70 locations. We do that every 6 months. And over the last 3 years, I've personally watched the water quality in Polk County decrease. Also, I'm on the board of directors of the Raccoon River Watershed Association. We have over 200 members up and down the full length of the Raccoon River. And we've been trying over the last several years to get the state of Iowa to implement some strict rules to clean up our water. I go to the Raccoon River almost every day, and I've observed the smell of hog manure. And also, I've observed that the clarity of the water has drastically decreased. We have a lot more soil that's in the water. The quality has continually decreased over the last few years. Even though we have a voluntary program to improve the quality, it has not been improving. We need to find some other solution.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Sheree Mortiz. I'm a retired school teacher and a member of Iowa CCI and the acting board president. I'd like to start off my remarks by, again, quoting Rick Robinson, Environmental Policy Advisor for the Iowa Farm Bureau, when he said, "The tradition here is we work together on these issues. It will be more difficult to work with farmers as a result of their abrasive actions." Unfortunately, there has not been a tradition of working together. There has been utter resistance by the Farm Bureau and the state of Iowa to hold polluters responsible for their non-compliance with the Clean Water Act. This reaction of the Farm Bureau presents Iowa farmers as a group who will continue to refuse to comply with the Clean Water Act and be ever more uncooperative, like a spoiled child that refuses to change their behavior. After years of trying to work with the factory farm industry and state officials, what we get is the equivalent of a temper tantrum. I'd like to quickly just shift gears and tell you a little bit about some of my own experience as a lifelong Iowan. I spent summers as a child at Lake Okoboji. That's where I learned to fish, to water ski, and to sail. The second and third generations of our family have not had that opportunity because it is so risky to try to figure out what the bacteria levels are because they jump all over. We actually tried it a while back, about 4 summers ago, and we ended up with 2 of our children in our family going to the doctor. And the doctor could only surmise that it was probably symptomatically related to contamination in the water. That was it for our family there. However, in 2013, being a good Iowan, I decided to persevere on, and I rented a beautiful cabin at Springbrook State Park for our family. The surrounding timber was beautiful. There was a lake with a hiking path, and so we unloaded 3 carloads of family members and kids, and the 4 teenagers ran for the beach. As I'm walking, I see out of my peripheral vision a sign that says, "Beware of possible high bacteria levels." I yelled to the kids, "Stop." Needless to say, it was a real disappointment to showcase our parks in this light, and it limited our activities. As a retired school teacher, it provided a teachable moment, but yeah, not the kind I was looking for. But overall, what is really disappointing is the willful failure of the governor, Chuck Gibb, director of the Iowa DNR, the Farm Bureau, and farmers and factory hog farmers specifically to protect a common resource of necessity like water. After not months, but years of Iowa CCI sitting down in discussions and presentations in front of the EPC, sitting down with Director Gibb on numerous occasions, nothing has really moved the farm industry towards substantial compliance with the Clean Water Act. Too few inspections and weak penalties that encourage repeat offenders continue to be an ongoing problem. The end result of voluntary compliance over decades has been a colossal failure, with ever-increasing water degradation and higher water bills for me as a ratepayer in the Des Moines metropolitan area. Why should 500,000 ratepayers have to pay for environmentally damaging practices going on upstream? But more importantly, this is a matter of public health and welfare, as has been pointed out. Why should our water system be at risk for a no-drink order because the DNR is failing to regulate an industry that only cares about their bottom line? The farm industry can no longer be allowed to run roughshod over the rule of law. I applaud the board of trustees and Director Bill Stowe for moving boldly to protect our drinking water and the willingness to change business as usual. Thank you, board.
My name is Barbara Lang. I live in Des Moines, and I'm a lifelong resident of Iowa. I'm also a member of CCI and also on the board of CCI. I, like many of you in this room, have watched the degradation of the land and the air and the water. I'm old, I'm retired, I've seen what it used to be. The Clean Water Act was passed 40 years ago, and now we have more impaired waterways than ever. In 2012, 23% of rivers and streams were considered non-impaired. As far as 34% of lakes and flood control reservoirs were non-impaired. Currently, we have 630 impaired waterways. The sources of the pollution are linked to animal waste, as you well know, if you've done your research. With the increase of CAFOs, 8,600 plus, it's still growing. We're talking about, in this area of the 3 states that were named in the lawsuit, there are 506 CAFOs. Think about that. 25% of the hogs in this country are in this state. That's a lot of manure. You add cattle and poultry, that's even more. So we have a problem as far as what do we do with these billions of gallons of manure? Well, we know what happens to it. The land cannot absorb it all. We're talking billions of gallons. So what happens? It gets in our waterways, and it comes down through all of these communities, and we end up having to clean it up. It is not healthy. Yes, Mother Nature is telling us there's too much manure for the land. And she's also telling us that voluntary compliance is not working. 40 years and nothing has changed except the increase in pollution? Something has to be changed. Farmers who pollute need to pay for the cleanup, not the 500,000 people in this community or in other communities. Industrial farmers are gaining financially, but they're losing social capital. I come from a farm background, and generations ago there was great respect for farmers, and they've lost that because of the pollution and environmental problems. I support this lawsuit and appreciate what Bill Stowe and those at the Des Moines Water Works are working to protect the public health as well as the environment. Thank you.
Sherry Hawk. I live in Ankeny, and I'm a proud member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement also. I'm here very simply to applaud this body, the Des Moines Waterworks Board, for your courage and your investment in doing the right thing for the citizens that this facility serves. I applaud Bill Stowe for his scientific pursuit and sharing of the truth regarding the origin of the excess nitrates in our drinking water and his willingness to withstand pressures from the polluters to protect the polluted upon. His tenacity is greatly appreciated. I also applaud all the feisty clean water addicts sitting in this room who are willing to take time out of their busy schedules to attend every EPC meeting to provide proof supporting the reality of our deteriorating waterways to the corporate stakeholders charged with protecting our health and welfare, and to beg them repeatedly to do the right thing for Iowans, even though this is universally to no avail. I just want to say thank you, and thank you again, board members, for demonstrating that you do care about Iowans. Thank you.
My name is Brenda Brink. I'm a proud member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. I'm from Huxley, Iowa. Like several of these people have said, I'm from a farm family. But I have also toured the Des Moines Waterworks. I've seen for myself how they gather the scientific data that has led them to this action. This action is necessary to continue providing safe drinking water. That's all we really need to say. It's necessary. All the people of Iowa deserve clean water and safe water. I salute the Des Moines Waterworks for their appropriate response to the causes of high nitrates in Iowa. We know that cause is from poor management of animal waste. We know where it's coming from. And I've told my dad, I'll tell anybody. If you're doing the right thing, then you need to get to the people who are doing the wrong thing. Because we know there are people out there managing animal waste correctly, but it's not enough. And it's hurting Iowa. Thank you.
Next over here.
I'm Mary Clark. I'm a member of the Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. I am also a rural Iowan, and I live on a well. And I've had a well quite a bit of my adult life. And I applaud the Des Moines Waterworks for their action. And I just applaud that people are looking at this and realizing this is a very serious matter, high nitrate levels in drinking water. I personally have experienced tragic loss with excessive nitrate levels in my well water. Both of my children, I had two children that were born with me drinking polluted well water out on a farm. My first child was born, he was very sick all the time. My second child, my second son was born, and he lived for 1 day. Now, the safe drinking water level for nitrates is 10 parts per million. My well water was 40 parts per million. I was surrounded by fields and farms. I didn't know that my water it didn't smell, it didn't have any adverse problems with visual problems. It looked clean, but I boiled it, which actually intensified and increased the nitrate level. So we were drinking this as a family, and it injured my family. In Germany and South Africa, the safe nitrate level for drinking water is 4.4 parts per million. In some European communities, it is 5.6 parts per million. which is the safe level for drinking water. And they made it this way because they found that infants, babies, were having health problems ingesting the water when it was 10 parts per million nitrate levels. And the health effects that I found were significantly associated with high nitrate exposure during pregnancy is incidences of intrauterine growth retardation, cardiac defects, central nervous system defects, sudden infant death syndrome, and miscarriages. Exposure to higher levels have been associated with increased incidences of cancer in adults and possible incidences of brain tumors, leukemia, nose and throat tumors in children. And since we have over 630 documented polluted waterways, 780 documented manure spills in Iowa, my concern and outrage is from our present levels of nitrates in the drinking water of hundreds of thousands of Iowans who could become sick and even die. And according to Senator Julian Garrett, who was quoted in the Carlisle newspaper, he had a meeting with the Farm Bureau leaders on December 16th, and they were discussing their priorities for the upcoming legislative session, one of which the Farm Bureau supports voluntary science-based conservation measures and incentives to minimize runoff from farmland. Obviously, the voluntary practices of conservation measures and incentives to minimize runoff from farmland isn't working because we have over 630 documented waterways, 780 documented manure spills in our state. We have one of the worst water quality rates in our whole country. Our state has one of the worst water quality listed on the EPA's website. And since Mr. Garrett is serving on Appropriation Committee, Judiciary Committee, Human Services Committees, and is the ranking Republican on the Government Oversight and Justice Systems Appropriation Subcommittees, I'm hoping he can appropriate more funding for the DNR to increase the number of farm inspectors, which are now currently only 15, who are responsible for inspecting all of the farms in Iowa. And I would just like to say, this is the 44th anniversary of my baby's death from this excessive nitrate problem that we have in Iowa. And after 44 years, I would hope that we can provide clean water to our citizens.
Who else along this row? Anybody here? Yes, sir? Have I missed anybody here?
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Kauser. I'm a fifth-generation farmer, cattleman, father, and I'm an Iowan. In all those roles, because I have a general care and concern for the state's water quality, I have a personally invested my own dollars to install conservation and nutrient retention practices on my farm. As a farmer, I'm proud to say that I have one of the most important jobs on this planet, and that's to feed the world. I've been involved in agriculture for a very long time and have a pleasure of growing up a family in central Iowa. We have invested our own dollars in a conference center at our feed yard and have folks come in from all around the world for farm tours and educate events to show them a slideshow presentation that highlights the various ways in which farming technology has changed over the decades. It's quite impressive, from horse-drawn plows to four-wheel drive tractors, and implementation of technology has significantly changed the way the crops grow and the animals are raised. Through the leadership of Secretary Bill Northey's Voluntary Nutrient Reduction Water Quality Initiative, we now have a venue to do, and we realize this is not going to happen overnight. It's been 2 years, and this could take up to 10 years as this technology comes along. Being a father of 2 sons, they are now grown men, and I've learned to somewhat be prepared for the unexpected. In farming, the unforeseen variable is always the weather, and let me tell you, the last 3 years has been a trip. In 2012, we experienced one of the worst droughts to date, followed by a very wet spring and a substantial drought in 2013. The excessive moisture during the summer of 2014. This combination and effort wreaked havoc in the waterway holding capacity of Iowa's soil. After listening to the discussion here today, I think it is clear that everyone in this room wants clean water. Sewing County drainage districts that were established in the 1800s by farmers will not result in clean water. These districts were established by farmers as an investment and requirement, continual maintenance of the structure, and function of their personal financing. It is slightly ironic that Des Moines Water Works is considering suing several Iowa drainage districts, given the notion that they were founded on collaboration and compromise among Iowans. You see, when drainage districts were formed, they were useless unless the neighbors downstream improved and developed drainage from their fields first. Drainage districts were founded on solidarity and have existed for decades in this concept. And I believe that this is the way to solve this task in front of us, working together and accomplishing that feat. I ask myself as I stand in front of you today, as a representative of the Iowa farmer and livestock producer, what qualifies me to give testimony on this very important issue today? And I do understand what a permit is. In 2011, our family feed yard, Cowser Cattle Company, received the National Environmental Stewardship Award from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I founded Lincoln Way Energy, a 50 million gallon ethanol plant in Nevada, Iowa. We purchase all of our water from the Nevada that comes from the Skunk River bottom wells. Our discharge water is 100% cleaner than when we remove it from the ground. Is yours? We have a feed yard north of Nevada, permitted for 5,200 head. We have 5 monitoring wells to test groundwater quarterly at my expense to make sure the groundwater is not being contaminated. In my permit, I have a 0 discharge except in the 24-25 rule. Is yours? I have backup intakes that collects water off driveways and sent to the field and growing crops to make sure it does not get into tiles at my own expense. On the farm, we use reduced tillage, green seeker technology, side dressing fertilizer, and stabilizers as crops need nutrients. Waterways, riparian buffer strips along creeks, and most exciting of all, cover crops at our own expense. This fall, we spent close to $15,000 of our own money. And we realize this is a technology that's coming, and we're learning, and we'll understand it. Lastly, shame on us. We as Iowa farmers and livestock producers are a very humble group and take great pride on what we are, the right practices and processes to do on our farm. We welcome new technologies that most all do more or less. Our role as farmers has changed. We need to get out in front and center and tell our wonderful story of agriculture and the positive roles we are playing in water quality and environmental stewardship. What we do on a day-to-day basis comes natural, as we are stewards of the earth and the livestock, and will hand it to our sons and daughters better than we received it. We don't need more rules and regulations. We need collaboration of working together and not confrontation. And I would like to give the board, my son was featured in a magazine here a month ago on the Farm Digest, and I would hope that this group, when they get back into closed session, would be able to just thumb through this and show you some of the, give the chairman here the last book I have of his. And I would hope that you would thumb through this, and I don't know if I have enough copies. We can make it good. Okay. Thank you. And I would hope you would thumb through this and look through that before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else along this wall? Yes, sir.
The previous speaker passed a book
My name is Jim
and
Glass.
copies of a picture.
I'm from Grinnell. I'm a CCI member, and I grew up on a farm in Wright County. I have farmed. I worked as an agronomist for several co-ops, and as the county extension director in Dickinson County for 23 years. During that time, living on the west shore of Big Spirit Lake. My sister and I still own a family farm in Wright County. soil and water conservation has been an important issue with me. Recently, my wife and I were going through our books. As you can see by looking at me, we're downsizing, we move into seniors living. I came across this book, Iowa's Natural Heritage. It includes a section written by Iowa State University agronomist Tom Fenton and Jerry Miller. They state that the revenue from crop production in Iowa is only second to California. Then they continue on to say that tragically, Iowa also has the distinction of having the most soil erosion of any state in the Corn Belt. Iowa has lost half of its topsoil. That was in 1982. So, where are we today after passing out environmental awards for soil conservation the last 33 years? We're worse off than we were then. The people of the Iowa Des Moines Water Works have pleaded for 33 years for cleaner water. To stop a bad situation from getting worse, they have proposed legal action. The Farm Bureau calls the Water Works action abusive and un-Iowan. What I call abusive and un-Iowan is flushing Iowa's soil, water, and manure down the river for people to drink and recreate in. Rick Robinson stated in the Register, nature doesn't take orders from a judge. Well, I would say that nature doesn't take orders from the Farm Bureau either. I commend the Des Moines Water Works for taking action to clean up our water. Waiting for 33 years for others to do the job is long enough. This isn't about feeding the world. This is about saving the planet. We can do better. Voluntary compliance for soil and water conservation won't work any better than voluntary income tax.
Wait on this wall. Mr. Pugh, are you?
Yes, I think so. Thank you, Chairman Gillette and Mr. Stowe for letting me speak. I'm not a member of any organization. I'm just a concerned citizen. I know that when my wife and I were first married a long time ago, and she became pregnant, I used to be able to go down to the Des Moines River, and I used to be able to catch some catfish, and I used to be able to bring it home and fix them nice and feed it to my pregnant. How could I do that now? No. And my sons, as they began to grow, they used to swim in the Des Moines. Well, what happened between then and now? You know, and I realize that there are some farmers that are very good stewards of the land. I recognize that. But then there are some that are not. And I just think that our water quality is abrasive, abusive, and un-Iowa. And I hope I fully support your actions and your litigation, if it comes to that. I fully support it. And thank you for letting me speak.
I know you're here in support of two beautiful grandchildren too.
Yes, I am.
Share some relatives, so, and those two boys in particular.
Oh, and before I finish, I want to commend you, Mr. Stowe, for your stewardship of our water. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for coming. Let's work our way about the people who are earning it by standing. Yeah. Oh, is there somebody over here? Okay. If you want to speak, and then you'll be next. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Yes, right there. And then you'll be next.
My name is Ross Gruters. I'm a resident of Pleasant Hill, Des Moines Water Works customer and father. And I'm also a member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. I was in Mason City when I heard the news yesterday about the potential lawsuit. And, I must say I was excited to come back down and be a part of this meeting to say thank you. Thank you for finally taking action. I hope you vote to do so today unanimously. As a father, I look around, I see the same water around this table that my daughter would drink, and I'm glad the Des Moines Water Works is here to provide safe drinking water for me and my family. But I can imagine a day where I pour that same water and it looks the same, but it's not safe to drink. there's a no drink order. And I can't imagine trying to explain that to my 8-year-old. I'm not sure she'd understand looking at that glass of water. It looks the same, regardless of how many parts per million nitrates are in. So for that reason, I really applaud your effort in taking this opportunity to do what's right, not just for Des Moines, but for Iowa. And we don't have decades to wait, with all due respect to Mr. Kauser. We don't have decades. We had decades before where the DNR, the Environmental Protection Commission, and the Farm Bureau failed to act. So why should we give them another 10 years? We need to take action now, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anybody else back here that needs to speak? Yeah. You'll be next.
Okay.
Start standing up.
Hello, I'm Linda Sorensen. I'm a Wright County farm owner. I'm probably one of the few farm owners in the state, an active farm owner, who closely oversees my operations. I'm probably one of the few that strongly support the action that you are considering. The idea that we should continue to let our water be polluted with over 600 streams is beyond outrageous. And I'd like to point out a few things that other farm people might not, or non-farm people might not be aware of, and that is, in the last 5 years, we've had $7 corn. These are record high grain prices. And in Wright County, what I observed firsthand is not people who are putting enough money into conservation. Instead, I saw the farmers who are now called grain producers buying more equipment, buying more land. They were not putting money into conservation practices. I saved money. It cost me $5,000 a year out of my own bank account to plant cover crops. Less than 2% of the farmers in Wright County plant cover crops. This is a proven technology that will retain the nutrients on my land. And 2%, I mean, this is just a joke. Out of all the money that farmers have made in the last 5 years, they certainly had money to put into conservation practices. They're simply not doing it. And oftentimes they have the great public relations statement, well, we feed the world. I'd like to correct that statement. We only export 7% of our corn. It does not feed the world. Even if it were true, we cannot afford to feed the world at the cost of our own personal natural resources. So as an active farm owner who grows corn and soybeans and who cares very deeply about the land, I strongly support and admire the work that you're doing. And just one other thing in the history, you may have remembered, I'm sure your attorney has looked over all the previous lawsuits. About 10 years ago, the state of Oklahoma told Arkansas that they were tired of all the chicken litter and manure that they were putting on the land there. And for 10 years, Oklahoma tried to get Arkansas to voluntarily solve this problem. After 10 years, they had done nothing. In fact, the pollution of the waterways only got worse. And at that point, they filed a lawsuit. And of course, they said the very same thing. Gee, why can't you just work with us? For 10 years, Oklahoma had tried to work with Arkansas. So that's the only thing that they're going to understand. So again, just look at the figures. I'm only one of 2% of the landowners in Wright County that planted cover crops. And we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in high grain prices in the last 5 years. If we don't do it now, when will we ever do it? Thank you.
Anybody else back here? Is anybody out there, Joe, that needs to speak? You'll be next.
Good afternoon. My name's Neela Seaman. I'm the director of the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club. And I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I've never been to a committee meeting before, so it's a really good opportunity. I
Sorry
don't know
about I had to
if
move, so
suing
I
Free
had
County
to
is the
go out of
correct
the room.
strategy or not. However, I do know that voluntary compliance has not worked. Sierra Club has little faith that the adopted Iowa nutrient reduction strategy will provide any benefits, and especially those enough that will make our water as clean as it can be. I don't know what percentage of our 5,000 members are Des Moines Water Works customers, but I do know that not one of them, or any of your other customers, can afford to continue operating the nitrate removal facility as much as has been required in the past couple of years. That's all I have. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I look forward to working with the board and staff at Waterworks, whatever you decide to do today to help improve our water quality. Thank you.
I'm Veronica Lack, and I have a horrible voice because of anhydrous ammonia in our well water. The anhydrous ammonia affected the neighbors. In 1993, they had semi-loads of cattle and pigs dropped dead from it. I filed a complaint with the DNR because their drainage process was ditches to sinkholes. It's a karsted limestone, limited amounts of topsoil, swale area full of sinkholes, and it had been a wetland. Well, that was the process that caused our wells downstream to be polluted with anhydrous ammonia, atrazine, very high levels, CAFO fertilizer runoff. Two evaluations only say you cannot apply anhydrous ammonia not CAFO fertilizer on highly erodible land. They don't say you need a minimum soil depth, that you need, my son did the programs for those Russell II evaluations that the NRCS offices do for the DNR. And if we added criteria to those Russell II evaluations, we could eliminate a lot of anhydrous ammonia pollution that can only get into our groundwater by point source polluting, according to Iowa State researchers. My voice didn't allow me, because I had just had biopsies in 2007 after the DNR had told me I had to file suit against the group that was planning a 320-foot wide flood channel, taking 42 acres of my family's farm without using eminent domain, without asking me, just bringing in the bulldozers, the scrapers, and taking it and digging it away. My husband had just died that year from he didn't die from the cancers. He got first inflammatory prostate cancer. I had inflammatory breast cancer, both stage 4. We survived them thanks to good Mayo Clinic care. But then we went on to get colon cancers, and both of us went through the DNA testing. We had no genetic things. I survived, and he didn't, because he got his third condition called hyperkalemia, and the Mayo oncologist told him to drink more water to flush the high potassium out through his kidneys. Well, the neighbors that had lost all those animals, and when I had filed a complaint with the DNR, got their well tests, and the government paid for them to have a new well. And I had my wells tested when I complained in 1993. They withheld the well test from me. And Dale Adams at the DNR Mason City office said, "Oh, your water is fine for both nitrates and bacteria." Well, it wasn't. In 2009, when the state ombudsman's office held, I found out that well test, I'm sorry, my voice goes because of the throat erosions. And that is why my son Adam testified in the 2007 trial that the DNR said I had to file, or they were going to charge me with the ongoing pollution. So what we have here, I lost that trial. It cost me $47,000 in lawyer fees, and now I filed suit after getting permission to file against the ongoing pollution in Mitchell County. This is Mitchell County, Iowa. They have planned these drainage districts through lines of sinkholes, and they're illegal. The Corps of Engineers refused those farmers in Section 10 a drainage outlet. You have to have a drainage outlet in order to form a drainage district, and then the county builds them and you pay taxes for them, like he said about maintaining them. But in this comparison, his were, I think, legally done. Mine were illegally formed. And then the DNR said I had to sue them, so I lost this. Okay. But anyhow, what we could do is have some decent regulation by the federal government. Those Russell II evaluations that they killed my Ivy League graduate son over, if you go to iowacoldcases.org, there is papers he wrote before he was killed about this very thing. And on that, in the comments section, is a response from one NRCS employee, and they pick on me like they picked on Mr. Stowe in the paper. And whose farm did they have to dig through to get to my farm to build that flood channel? The former head of Farm Bureau, Dean Kleckner. And he never dug through those sinkholes on his land before 2004. He didn't.
Thank you for coming.
So anyhow, I'm still hoping to get my suit through.
Thank you.
It's something done.
I'm going to bounce back over here.
Thank you for your work.
Is there somebody along this wall that you would like to speak? Looking right back there, gentleman by the door.
You did good.
Good afternoon, I'm Dan Speck. I live in Des Moines. My wife and I are in a factory.
You want to go out?
Small factory.
He wants to go out.
Produce the glasses that you guys sent out. And I can't dump untreated anything anywhere. Okay? And my compliance is not voluntary. Okay? If I dumped, matter of fact, every 3 years I have to fill out an inventory and provide it to the DNR and the EPA and everything that I use that qualifies. And the recording limit is 1,000 gallons a year, and that doesn't even show up on the horizon on this, on what gets dumped on farm fields. We have a situation in the state. I've got some information here from iowadatacenter.org where less than 10% of Iowans are employed in farming, and they generate about 6% of the gross domestic product. And Bill, you just said that farming is responsible for 90% of the surface water and 100%, that's a lot of percentages, and 100% of the surface water. And the other 90% of us who operate and work for responsible operations which comply with all the regulations have been totally cut out of the discussion on this. We are not represented on any level, and I think that lawsuits are the worst way to solve this, but I don't see any alternative. And the only thing I would say is that you probably could get support from most of the cities of the state of Iowa, and maybe collectively it would be even more powerful than just the city of Des Moines. So anyway, I applaud what you're doing. Thanks for your time.
Anybody else over? Yes, ma'am.
I just have some copies. You can look at them.
The speaker just
My
passed
name
some
is Chris
documents to the
Wilbeck,
board
and I live
members.
in the Beaverdale area of Des Moines with my husband and 11-year-old son. I moved here last year after living in rural Greene County for 11 years. I love my new neighborhood, but I'm still families in Greene County as dear friends, even many farm families across Iowa. I'm here today, though, to wholeheartedly support your lawsuit against the 3 upstream counties sending excessive nitrates our way. In fact, I think you should add Greene County, with its 110 drainage districts, to your list of counties to monitor and sue. Why? Some may claim the lawsuit hurts farmers. I disagree. I claim it only makes counties accountable for the pollution they send downstream that Des Moines Water Works and the Des Moines citizens have to deal with. We had to move to Des Moines from our 10-acre dream home in Rippey because my family was threatened by the toxic air emitted from the 4,800 head hog confinement built down the road. Now, my family will be threatened by drinking water polluted by the hundreds upon hundreds of hog confinements, rubber stamped by upstream county supervisors who rarely understand the permits they approve and aren't held accountable for the consequences. They need to become accountable for the permits they approve and the drainage districts they manage. I've seen firsthand the thousands of gallons of manure spread on farm fields near my former home. So much manure it can't possibly be used and will undoubtedly leach into the water that drains from the tile lines into the Raccoon River and ultimately to my tap in Des Moines. I've seen firsthand the pipe to the ditch that runs directly from the tile line surrounding the confinement near my former home. That tile line was installed to capture manure leakage from the concrete pit holding 1 million gallons of liquefied waste, which will run through that pipe to an open ditch. That ditch is connected to other tile lines that drain into the Raccoon River and ultimately to my tap in Des Moines. I mention this because most likely the same thing is happening in the 3 counties named in your lawsuit. As a Des Moines resident, I want clean, safe, affordable drinking water. I don't want to read countless blue baby water alerts in the Des Moines Register like I read in the Jefferson Bee for Greene County's small town of Sherdale. I don't want to pay for expensive infrastructure that will be required to restore an escalating problem that upstream counties are causing. Until they are held accountable and forced to mitigate the pollution they send our way, they will make no real attempt to correct it. I stand here today pleased to support your decision to protect and secure my family's right for drinkable water. No person, no industry, no authority has a right to pollute or enable the pollution of the water we drink, ever. Thank you.
Is there anybody outside that door that needs to speak? I don't want to miss you. You guys are.
Adam.
Anybody out there? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Roger Wolf. I'm Director of Environmental Programs and Services at Iowa Soybean Association. I also am the Executive Director for the Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance. Some of you may know that we've had a long historical working relationship with the Des Moines Water Works, and this goes back to working with L.D. McMullen over the years at the front end of when the nitrate removal plant was installed. And just so folks know the score here, there's certainly a recognition from the agriculture community that we have a problem with chronic nitrate in the Raccoon River. The Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance annually assesses themselves a fee and invests in water monitoring. And most of that water monitoring has been done in cooperation with the Des Moines Water Works Water Quality Testing Lab. And in fact, we often would share staff and do this work cooperatively. And part of the reason we did that was to understand the issues, understand better where the problems were coming from, where we could advance solutions, and frankly, any business, waterworks, agriculture, we want confidence, right? We want confidence that what we're going to do is going to work. On the non-point source pollution, this is the uncharted frontier in water policy. We all know this. Nutrients and water quality, whether you're talking the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi River, these are the current issue that's on the front burner on the waterfront. This is undefined policy space. Yeah, frankly, I think it's unfortunate that we're talking about voluntary versus regulatory. I think that discussion divides us in a bifurcated way. Unfortunately, using the court system to advance policy in that policy space, I think that's really the motivation here. A couple comments about nitrate trends. One of the things we found, over 5,600 water quality samples on all the tributaries entering the Raccoon River over the last decade. Trend data actually indicates that we're about 20% reduction over that last decade in nitrogen concentration. And I would invite the public, I would invite the board, Director Stowe, come on in and let's take a look at that data over the last decade. A lot of that data was analyzed in your lab. This is consistent with trends documented by the USGS, the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. Further, there have been scientific publications using Des Moines Waterworks data going back to 1916 that have shown dramatic improvement in sediment discharge out of the river from 1916 to recent years. It's an unprecedented data set. That's something we ought to be celebrating. The fact is that we are making some progress. Now, you are drawing great attention to this issue. And what we would really like to advance is a one water approach, a watershed solution, one that we have confidence in. There's no evidence that a regulatory approach will work on non-point source pollution. We believe there's an effective 1-2 strategy in place that provides quality water to Iowa. There's no doubt that you're going to have quality source water here in Des Moines. And every day you flip the switch, you're going to have to produce water that meets Safe Drinking Water Act requirements. You know, I'm an owner of Des Moines Waterworks. I live in southwest Dallas County. I rely on good quality water at an affordable price. Thank you for providing that water. The 1-2 strategy is to have an affordable and effective water treatment plant that meets those requirements downstream. You've been doing a remarkable job with the nitrate removal plant, which, if you do the math using the numbers that have been provided, it's less than $1 per customer per year. We're talking about a mountain that's going to have to be moved upstream in terms of improving water quality. So Iowa farmers are committed to providing the best water possible. Our record demonstrates this, whether it's at Iowa Soybean Association, the Agriculture Clean Water Alliance. I think we could do more working together. It's worrisome that the potential damage that a lawsuit could do, but thanks for having us and listening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else over here? Yes, sir. You will be next, if that's all right. Go ahead, please.
My name is Joe Fagan, and I live in Des Moines. And I grew up on the farm. My sister and her husband still farm. And I have a lot of in-laws that farm. And I support this proposed lawsuit 100%. And I want to thank you for the courage to do it. Because we all know there's been a lot of very visible politicians, people that work for the government, that just don't have the guts to do it. They don't have the courage. And we don't have to list them, but that's the truth. And what was so exciting about finding out you guys are doing this is that, God, it's kind of rare to find courage when you want to deal with the water, and you guys have it. And we appreciate it very much. The whole community is behind you. You can't find a big enough place to put all the people that support. What you're doing is important. It's a no-brainer that clean water is so important. And what you're doing is extremely important. factory farm pollution has been a curse to the state, to the people of this state. And you're going to do something to kick the butt of somebody, of other people, to get moving, to do something relevant, not just talk. There's a lot of talk. We talk for years. But you're going to actually do something. And thanks again, Bill Stowe and all the people on the board. Thanks for taking action. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Fred Dorr. I'm from West Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm here to register my objection to the potential lawsuit. I think the critical issue here, obviously, as evidenced by the ICCI folks and other blocks that have shown up today to support your intended action, is that somebody needs to regulate this industry, and we're tired of waiting for the EPA and the state to do this. So we're going to support you guys in Des Moines to do this on our behalf. You don't have jurisdiction for this lawsuit. I know you're going to get some kind of indication from your counsel that you go ahead with this, but there are a couple of classic examples that are out there. Maybe this area needs more regulation, but not by this group. For example, the city of Ames decided there was a smoking and no smoking ordinance in the state of Iowa. They didn't like that, so the city council decided we're going to ban all smoking in Ames. That suit was pursued. They lost, cost money to defend all that or to promote that concept. It went up to the Supreme Court. They finally got the law changed, and then matters changed. But Ames didn't have the authority to do that. The franchise fee argument, this happened in Des Moines. City of Des Moines handled this issue on its own. We think we know how to handle this. They pursued this, litigation ensued. Who ended up paying for all that? We folks in central Iowa. And what happens if you bring this litigation wrongfully, there will be fee shifting. The Des Moines Water Works will pick up the cost of the other side who has to fight this, which what I would argue is inappropriate. I'm not saying the issue is not right for someone else to consider, but it's wrong for this group. And why pick 3 counties? Are you suggesting that the counties of Sac, Calhoun, and Buena Vista should be regulating in this area because you can't get EPA to do it or you can't get the state to do it? They aren't any more responsible for regulating this area than you folks are. So that's the essential point. You can get yourself embroiled in this kind of litigation, cost everybody a lot of money, divert a lot of attention and time to an important issue, but you're the wrong body to initiate this. And I strongly encourage you to rethink this before you launch off onto what I think is folly. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, right here in the front row. Yes.
My name is Sharon Donovan, and I am from Clive. I come from a farming family. I'm a proud member of CCI. And I bless you, thank you for having the courage to do this. And there's just one reason why we're all here today, and it's because of negligent farmers and CAFO operators throughout the state that want to make as much money as possible and to hell with citizens' right to clean water. These agribusiness men and women are polluting the Iowa streams and rivers. They know it, we know it, yet they refuse to take responsibility and pay for the environmental damage that they have caused. And that, my friends, most decidedly, this situation is not, as once mentioned, Iowa friendly. This is like a basketball game. We've got one team over here, they're called Profit. We got another team at the other end of the court called Citizens. The CAFO owners and the farmers, some negligent farmers of Iowa, are on the Profit team. On the Citizens team, we've got children, babies, people whose immune systems aren't strong, Des Moines residents. I'm here today to support and root for the Citizens team. Unfortunately, this is not a game. Environmental problems in our state are worsening. In 2011, there have been over 700 CAFO manure spills that eventually drained into Iowa streams and rivers. The Iowa Department of Natural Resources has failed to protect the public again and again. They have failed to issue a single Clean Water Act permit since the work plan was passed in 2011. The DNR has ignored, twisted, misapplied, abused reasonable environmental enforcement, whereas the Des Moines Water Works has taken their obligations to the public seriously by turning to the last option available, a lawsuit. Our concern should be how to achieve rapid and lasting protection for the Earth's life support systems. Mankind has unleashed an environmental hellstorm upon this planet, and thanks to ill-gotten profits and spineless politicians, we have this situation. The problem of polluted waterways isn't a benign warning or humdrum acknowledgement that water is sometimes polluted. It is the result of an obsession with all things economic and material, which is placing us on a path of threatening extremes. The waterworks call is not something that might happen someday. It is to recognize that relying on ineffectual state agencies, Governor Branstad's transparent proposals, and voluntary cooperation has had a disastrous consequences. And we now face a public crisis. This goes beyond public health. It's an ethical, it's a moral issue. 110 countries around the world guarantee in their constitution a citizen's right to a clean environment. Iowans must demand this universal right, and it should start today with clean water. Ill-gotten profits by irresponsible citizen farmers and CAFO owners who desecrate the environment with manure and pesticides and overuse of fertilizers and treat animals so inhumanely now attempt to put a good face on their practices. Des Moines Water Works, I'm so glad you've met your obligation to protect the public good, and now is the time to do so. We need a lawsuit, and we need it fast. Thank you so much.
I'm simply going around the room. I know this discussion has been somewhat lopsided on agenda, but I'm not trying to pick on anybody. If there are people here to speak against this lawsuit, let me know. I'm not trying to do this, as I said, I'm just trying to work around the, yes, sir, I'll go with you right back there, then.
Behind you. Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Move out of the way for 2 minutes. I wanted to come out from to my left.
I'll just kind of speak off. I'm from Madison County. I'm a farmer there. I'm a contractor, install conservation practices, and I'm also a member, assistant commissioner of the Soil Water Conservation Board. And I know there's a lot of talk about the effect of voluntary and the effect of collaborative efforts. And just a few miles outside the metro is Badger Creek watershed. And it's kind of an interesting story. Just a few hours before this meeting began, they had a meeting today of producers talking about the use of cover crops, their initial use of cover crops, what worked, what didn't, what they'd like to do differently next year. And that's that watershed has had an active association in it since the late 1950s. It began with a small group of people. It grew to include neighbors that originally weren't interested in it, and it's since grown to branch out and have other agencies and organizations as partners with them. There's Madison County, there's the County Soil and Water Conservation Board, the Iowa Department of Agriculture, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, excuse me, my mouth is dry, and the Environmental Protection Agency have all worked there in a collaborative effort for it'd be almost 6 decades now that's been going on. And I would say living in that watershed and working for people in that watershed, you get a first-hand account of families, the farm families there, the seriousness with which they approach soil and water conservation and improving quality, and the multi-generational efforts they put forth in order to do that. And that's a legacy that I'm proud of. I'm proud to live in that watershed. I'm proud to work in that watershed. And I'm proud to tell that story of that watershed. I'm afraid if you guys take the course that you might very well take this afternoon, it leaves behind a legacy of litigation. And I just think that collaborative approach of bringing, and I'm not alone in that. I think the Region 7 environmental, the EPA Region 7 administrators on record for saying a voluntary collaborative effort should serve as a role model for how we approach challenges. Because the other thing about that watershed is that those initial producers that started that, they had the challenge, they had the goals of reducing soil erosion and doing something about flood control. And the fact is that there's no finish line when we come to conservation. We reach those goals, and then we're presented with new challenges. In the case of Badger Creek, they build a lake, and that's presented a whole new set of challenge to a whole new generation of producers. But the relationships were there in place among the producers and among local partners to figure out ways to meet those challenges. And so I thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Jess Mazur from here in Des Moines, and I'm a proud member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. And I want to thank each and every one of you for what you're about to embark on. This is a powerful statement to the polluters in Iowa, and this is something that's not only going to affect people here in Des Moines who are ratepayers, but people all across the state. I also want to say, so coordination, they keep saying, well, why don't we just start coordinating? We need to work together. They had their chance. They've had their chance for decades. We've been asking them for meetings. We've been asking them to clean up their act. Don't build factory farms near waterways. Don't spread manure near waterways. They had their chance to coordinate. They lost their chance. Their time is over. It's our time now. What happened at the State House? There was a bill last year to lessen the amount of training manure applicators would receive. Who was in support of it? Farm Bureau and the commodity groups. Ag-gag bill. You can't document what's going on in and around a factory farm. Who supported it? Farm Bureau and commodity groups. A law that says our state laws that protect our environment cannot be more stringent than federal laws. Who supported it? Farm Bureau and the commodity groups. Federal law is a floor, not a ceiling. It is our state right to make federal laws stronger to protect our natural resources. Increased funding for the DNR inspectors. Who fought it? Farm Bureau and the commodity groups. Manure, banning manure on snow-covered ground and frozen ground. Who fought it? Farm Bureau and the commodity groups. Banning the amount of manure you can spread on fields going into soybeans because they produce their own nitrogen. Who fought it? Farm Bureau and the commodity groups. Your time is over. It is our time now. And then you say that nitrate levels are going down. I'm going to give you some different numbers. In 1998, the EPA 303D impaired water list had 159 polluted waterways in Iowa. In 2002, 238. In 2004, 313. 2006, 374. 2008, 542. 2010, 606. 2012, 630. The next list comes out this spring. What's it going to be at this year? Are we going to go over 700 this year? Your time is over. It's our time now. Just in these 3 counties alone, there are 506 factory farms. That's a big signal that there's where a lot of the pollution is coming from. You can't use weather as an excuse. With climate change, we are going to see more and more weather that is not predictable. You know what the excuse is? Is that you're not building more storage for your manure. That's the excuse. No more dumping it on our ground. No more spreading it on snow-covered and frozen ground. No more double dipping on fields that are already taking manure. It's our time now. You know what? I live here in Des Moines, and I want to raise my kids here. I want to have children, and I want to bring them up in Iowa because this is a great place to live. But I'm not going to do that until we have clean water, because I'm not going to let my kids drink this. I'm not going to let them be around it. I'm sick of paying for it. I'm done paying for it. So thank you, Des Moines Water Works. This is the breath of fresh air that Iowa has needed for so long. It is our time now.
First, the good news, this is going to be brief. My name is Ed Rethman. I live in West Des Moines, and I'm also a member of CCI. I would like to thank a number of people. To thank you, the board, for holding this public hearing. Thank you for this action that you are considering. And I'd also like to thank those farmers who are really doing the job that they should be doing. We appreciate that very much. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them that don't. For the last 3 years, I think I spoke to the DNR board, and each time I said the same thing, and that was that these factory farms are very profitable for a couple of reasons, but one of them is they do not cover their full costs. They send those costs down the river for you people to deal with, and the taxpayers that use your water. But in addition to the financial costs, and this has been covered by other speakers, there is the health costs. You can't put a dollar amount on that. That's impossible. A number of speakers have also said that voluntary compliance doesn't work. But yet we have some people that are insisting that we should try and try and try again. That reminds me of Einstein's definition of insanity. Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It just doesn't happen. Anyway, I hope that you will seriously consider what you've heard today and go ahead with this lawsuit. Thank you.
Anybody over here? Mr. Harmon?
He wants to go out.
Anybody else that needs to speak? Anybody else? Last call. One right there. You're waiting to be the last one.
Well, this is off the cuff, too. My name is Sherry Addy, and I'm a resident of Des Moines, Iowa. In 2006, I left a career with the Postal Service with this big dream that I was going to do something to help the natural resources of Iowa. So I walked away from that job, attended the College of Agriculture at Iowa State in the Natural Resource Ecology Management Department. And I went and did some little ranger jobs here and there, and in the off-season I came home and applied for this job that I thought would be my dream job, a soil conservationist with the NRCS. To make a long story very short, I walked away from that job after 6 months. After going through training to save the natural resources, I really thought that I could fight the machine. But I want to tell all of you, this voluntary program does not work. I mean, there are simple things I learned at Iowa State. Just plant some buffer strips, put some cover crops down, and the amazing results that could come from that with this problem. I was always asking my professors, what's the big deal? We could get that going. Well, it's voluntary. And so I thought I'd march into the NRCS in my county and educate all the farmers. And I want to say there are some wonderful farmers out there. I went to workshops, and my God, if all the farmers were like this man, we wouldn't have a problem. But the problem is they aren't like him. And they don't do it voluntarily. A lot of the problem is we rent out a lot of our cropland. And some of the renters have a very short-term view of how they're going to take care of the land. They'll come in there 1 or 2 years, try to get all the profits they can, and they will farm their cropland right up to the edge of creeks and waterways. I was constantly out in my county questioning these practices, and I just sort of hit a wall where I had to walk away from that job after going to school for 4 years to try to help save Iowa. So I want to applaud all of you for going forward with this, because of voluntary compliance, this kumbaya thing of getting all the government agencies together, it doesn't work. It turns into one big cluster, fill in the blank. So, you know, I really, really want you guys to go through with this. Even though it might not be the greatest solution, it is going to draw some attention to this problem. We do need some regulations. And I bet you some of the farmers are educated more and are forced to do this. They will find out that it's not that big of a challenge to do some of these simple conservation practices that could save our water quality here in Iowa and make us proud. You know, I think it's the governor down in the Gulf of Mexico, when he took some other governors on a tour down there, he announced that this dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico was called Little Iowa.
Oh.
That was something I learned at Iowa State too, in the College of Agriculture. And so I would hope that the farmers who are doing their best in the conservation efforts would continue to try to impress what they're doing on their neighbors. But we need more than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Last chance. Anyone else that wants to speak? Mr. Fagan, you talked about courage and you talked about our courage it is. I don't know if this has anything to do with courage. It's about responsibility. And I think by the show of people here, I think we're all showing that we take this as our own personal responsibility. I know that everyone here does. I know there's a lot of people outside of this room. And I included that I appreciate Mr. Wolf from the Soybean Association and the farmers who came today. You show that you also take responsibility for this. And I know that for those who disagree with the potential action we may take, part of the argument is that, or the fear is that this action could stop that conversation. I, for one, don't want to stop that conversation. I hope there's a way that we can work together to find the solution to make Iowa productive, both from an agricultural standpoint, but from a place to raise our families and for the future. Before we take a vote on this, does the board have anything they'd like to say?
For me, I'll speak for myself, one of the things that the Des Moines Register talked about, they were presented as a decision that had already been made. That's what we're here today to do, is discuss that. I want to say that, as in all things, we have understandings from other things. I personally make it a practice not to comment on litigation or cases that are not affected by me that I've read about in the newspapers, because that doesn't necessarily cover all the facts or exactly what's going on. And you may not know exactly what we are doing or how we're approaching this from newspaper articles. That being said, I haven't made up my mind. I keep my views fresh so that I can ask the questions that we need to ask in our closed session to see where we are. That's what the meeting's about. I just want as a public process issue so that you know that. And I also appreciate there are very good farmers who are doing the right things. I work in rural Iowa for the Public Defender's Office. A lot of my clients are working on farms and agriculture industry, and I talk to a lot of people every day about what they're doing, what they're seeing. The industry's changed in the last decades. My name is Wallace. I'm not one of those Wallaces. But, you know, the Wallace's farmer that I would have is maybe a different model from the way some of the things are practiced and the way things are done. But it's not our job to change the world. Our job is to look at what the interests of the Des Moines water customers are, making sure the city of Des Moines and the surrounding communities have good, clean drinking water. And we need to also, not just make policy for the state, but we need to encounter if somebody does damage to us, we need to determine if they are making damage, and if they are doing something we can do something about. And that's what the discussion is here today.
Anything? Sue, Dave, anything you can say? Dave?
Sure.
Go ahead.
This is very important. You know, after reading the article, we were trying to figure out what is an Iowan. I just want to thank everyone for being there, because this is Iowa. It's about people that truly care. Mr. Koser, thank you. It is wonderful to hear from farmers like you. Thank you. Ms. Sorensen, thank you very much. Many of you have taken, you know, your day, your afternoon to come here. Mary, I'm sorry for your loss. What a terrible day to have to be here, but thank you for being here. We appreciate every one of you coming. There was not one point that we have not taken to heart. It is a very difficult decision, and I just want to let you know we appreciate your involvement. Not all of our meetings are this exciting, but you're welcome to come in.
So, thank you very much.
Dave, anything to say? Thank you. All right, so as I mentioned before at the beginning of the meeting, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a vote to go into a closed session. We're going to discuss matters pertaining to this litigation, allow us some time to evaluate that. We will come out of this closed session and anticipate taking a vote on whether or not to proceed with that. That also won't be the most exciting of things, but you're welcome to stay for that by all means. After I'll read what the motion is, and after we do that, then we'll take a few minutes to clear the room. Again, thank you for coming. I know we all appreciate that, and we invite you back anytime. This will be a process that goes on. As you all understand, we're going to file an intent to file a lawsuit. That's in 60 days. Hopefully there is some discussion over that next 60 days, and we'll be back to do that again. But please continue to communicate with us and participate. So the motion that I'm looking for is a motion to hold a closed session under Section 21.51C Code of Iowa to discuss litigation strategy with counsel concerning source water pollutants devoid disclosure likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of Des Moines Water Works. Is there a motion to that effect?